The views expressed in this video are solely those of the host and the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization or entity that may be affiliated with. We encourage the viewer to conduct their own research. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the PackBreakers, the show about tobacco harm reduction and the people of tobacco harm reduction. Today we have a guest, somebody that I've known for some time now, a good friend and a fellow vapor, and someone that's now involved in the industry as somebody that sells vape products as a rep for an e-liquid manufacturing company. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Gregg Rappaport to the PackBreakers. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me and having me on the show. And for all you do for all of us in the industry, it goes without saying. You're a legend. A legend.
Well, thanks, Greg. Check's in the mail. So it's now become a tradition that we ask our guests if they had a smoking history and what was that like. And now that we know that you're a vapor, what was the reason for you to switch to vaping, and what has your life been like since switching to vaping?
Okay, so much amongst the usual story is that I started at a young age, a lot of peer pressure when I was in school to start smoking. It started becoming a real full-time habit at the age of 17, and eventually I got up to about 2 to 3 packs a day. I was very active as a teenager, doing lots of sports, and eventually I started to notice that I was not as not as active, and my stamina was not lasting as long. I woke up in the morning coughing, headaches, that sort of thing, hands yellow from smoking. And I went and had a full physical with my doctor, and he literally said to me, if you do not stop smoking within the next 5 years, you're going to have serious health issues. And I made the decision then and there to get onto vaping. Back in those days, there wasn't too much available. I'm talking probably May 2012 is when I started to find those e-cigarette thingies. It helped a bit. And then Twist, I think, was introduced into the country around that sort of time, end of 2013, somewhere around there. And I got onto the clearamizers, they called them in those days. And I stayed on that for about a good year or so. And then I met you, actually, funnily enough.
Sorry.
Through one of my best friends. And we met at a party. And I'll never forget that you had that big mod in your hands and you were blowing big clouds. And I was intrigued. I was like, wow. It was a bit daunting when I saw it at first. And I remember saying to you at that day, I said, I'm quite happy with my little Twist, but it's doing its job. It got me off smoking pretty much immediately. And fast forward a couple more months after that, I was at a party with my friend Clint, and I tried his mod that you actually funded him or gave him. And I started to taste the flavor, and I was like, wow, this is much better than what I currently have. And then I started researching myself, and I went onto YouTube, and I never listened to what anybody told me, because I've always been that sort of person to go and find out for myself, and see what was going on in that industry. And you shed some light on it, and you told me to go and see a very predominant vape shop in the country, which I did. And that's when I started, basically, and that was really properly starting vaping on the hobbyist side of vaping. Which people may not know, but that's your building of your own coils and putting your own cotton in, and filling up your tanks with liquids and stuff like that. And I was hook, line, and sinker. I now have a whole room full of vape products, and I've never felt better in terms of my health. I got my taste back, I got my smell back, I got my energy levels back, my skin cleared up. Literally, when I walk around now and I see someone smoking a cigarette, I literally want to vomit, because I can smell it. It's so pungent. And I think when you're a smoker, you don't smell that. So, and here I am.
Okay.
A couple of years later. Still going strong.
So, I mean, you do feel a lot better now as a vapor as you
absolutely,
you
without question.
Okay. And you've been vaping for how long now?
So basically since 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So You now currently work in the industry, But I mean, that's not, you weren't one of those individuals that worked in the industry and then started vaping. You were vaping for some period of time before you got into the industry.
Correct.
How long have you been in the industry as from a commercial point of view rather than just a consumer?
In not such a big scale as I am now, on and off since about 2015, 2016, where I was helping various e-liquid manufacturers in the country just on the side. I was in corporate life for many years, and I was doing sideline sales for them and that type of thing. And that's how I got to meet everybody in the industry, including yourself and various other people. And just the camaraderie and the togetherness of everybody. A community whereby we literally have a chance to save people's lives, and that for me has always been the most important thing. More recently, go a little bit back now to 2019. I found an e-liquid in one of the shops, and I bought it. And I was so impressed by the flavor and how good the complexity of the flavor was that I literally phoned the owner of the company and I said to him, "Have you got representation? I think you've got something here. Can I help you to sell your products?" And the rest is history. Now.
And that's Bavork Industries.
And that's Bavork Industries, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Bavork Industries is not based in Johannesburg, it's based in KwaZulu-Natal.
In
correct?
Pietermaritzburg, to be exact.
Why is it
yes.
always the good juices come from the coast? Sorry, guys. So it's fair to say that you've seen quite a bit, given that you do, we've had guests that are based in a shop, so they kind of see what's happening in their local environment. So being a sales representative, and you tend to travel around a large part of Gauteng, is that safe to say?
A large part.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So you get to see a lot more than what we would imagine seeing from a single shop point of view.
Yeah.
There's obviously been some significant change over the years. If we think about not only from an innovation point of view, because these products tend to be very innovative. They tend to be fast moving in terms of features and functions and efficiencies and different battery technology and different circuitry and materials. It just keeps coming and coming and coming. I remember every month or every week there happened to be something new that was coming out.
Correct.
So you've seen quite a bit of this innovation, a lot of this changing, but it's not only from an innovative point of view, but it's also from a policy point of view, and as well as a narrative point of view in terms of all the misinformation that's out there.
Yes.
Also, are you seeing a lot of individuals coming into the market that might not necessarily have walked those miles? That's coming in somewhere after all that, what we'd say bleeding edge, consumer driven. It's now. So how's the industry different to what it was when you first started in this role?
Good question. Back in the old days, it was more of a hobbyist sort of market, where it was a stronger community, a stronger togetherness. Definitely there was a lot more in terms of product innovation, like you say, which really made it more, more attractive, and it was always, I couldn't wait to get in my car and go to the next vape shop type thing. I even remember we had vape meets in the days, back in the shops, and the shops were chock-a-block on a Saturday morning. We'd walk in there'd be 50, 60 people, everyone blowing big clouds and comparing devices and all that sort of thing. More recently now, the market has changed a lot in terms of how people are vaping, what products are being used currently. And, the way I see it, Kurt, at this moment in time, like I said to you just now, is that I just want people to stop smoking. How you do it is up to you, and it shouldn't really matter. I think a lot of people do argue about the disposables and that sort of thing. I see it as creating more vapors and getting people off smoking cigarettes. So, the industry has evolved in that way, and yes, innovation has evolved in that way. And there's, I think the market is shifting slightly again, where people are coming down off high milligram nicotine and people are looking at liquids and pod devices and that sort of thing, which is a good thing. But at the end of the day, we're creating vapors, and that for me is the most important thing.
So yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, there's been a lot of debate around the impact of disposables on the vaping industry, and I think for the longest time, and I'll stand up and be corrected for it, is that I was very anti-disposable. I have a love-hate relationship with disposables because I do think that there is a lot more wrong with a disposable than, for example, a regular modular product, even if it is a pre-filled or disposable pod, because that's just what I was used to, and I've said it before. I think my objection was based on the fact that I saw there's going to be such a huge objection to now a device that is so convenient, is so almost stealthy compared to what we've been used to. But it's based on the fact that my own experiences with a family member not being able to quit smoking using traditional vape products was able to do so effectively and so readily with a disposable.
Yeah.
Which then opened my eyes to say, but hang on, this is possibly the next step in innovation, is to help more people switch because it offers that level of convenience.
Absolutely, can't agree more.
So, but then again, it does have some downfalls if we consider the impact on waste, and so there is a discussion around how it's so easily accessible to the youth, but I think there are ways and measures to do that. So,
look, I think saying that, I agree. It is a lot accessible to the youth, but that comes down to what's the word? Responsibility from a parent point of view, number one. Responsibility from a vendor selling point of view, number two. And I think for the most part, we predominantly supply vape stores as a supplier, and we stick to that model specifically for a reason. Number one, to protect our brand, and also to protect the products getting into kids' hands, and it's very important that for us. There are irresponsible people out there that are selling these products and bringing these products illegally and that sort of thing. And you know what? On one hand, can you blame them? They're trying to put food on their table. They're trying to run a business. And where we're sitting as an industry at the moment, there is no current legislation or regulation. And until such time as we have that in place, and we need to have that in place, those sort of things are going to start to sift away. And it's really going to leave a proper framework for us to get these products over to the right people in the right hands, if that makes sense.
So the whole kids argument is, I understand. I am a father of a 15-year-old.
Look, kids are going to be kids. They're going to do what they want. We all did it at a young age. I smoked cigarettes at 15, 16 years old. Like I say, it comes down to a parent telling their children what is right and wrong and letting that kid make up the decision for themselves, I guess.
So your parents didn't tell you about your smoking being bad for you at 15?
Well, they were heavy smokers themselves.
Okay.
They didn't like that I was smoking at a young age, but they couldn't stop me. I did it behind their backs. I stole my dad's cigarettes and went and hid in the garden and smoked. And
so is it really a problem with the parents?
I wouldn't say as much. It definitely is a factor. But if someone wants to do something, they're going to do it. It's as simple as that.
You see, I'm seeing it as slightly different, and I'm just referring to the data. If we look, for example, a country that is incredibly active in measuring and monitoring tobacco and tobacco consumption, and that is the United States. And every year they do a national youth tobacco survey religiously, and they survey thousands of schools and tens of thousands of pupils. And obviously, since 2011, the vaping statistics have increased year on year. Up until 2019, when it was around about 27.9% of kids in the United States, based on the survey, were vaping at least once every 30 days. And remarkably, since 2019, the very latest stat, which was released not so long ago, that same cohort is now sitting at 7.8% of kids that had vape in the past 30 days, even if it was a single puff.
Okay.
If we look at how regular vapers those are kids that are vaping at least 20 days of a month. That figure is now sitting, I stand under correction here. We might have to just flash a figure. I think it's about 3.4%. I might just have to flash a figure on to correct that, around 3.4. And when I speak to some of the advocates overseas who follow this closely in the United States, it's now become a thing that vaping is considered as cringe. It's considered as, a horrible thing. And they've moved on. So a large part of me is thinking that when we see this craze, South Africa is always going to be sometime after the United States. We're actually not seeing a true problem here. We might be seeing what America had saw in 2019, that there was suddenly this massive fad and everybody was doing it. And then suddenly there was this turning point and then nobody wants to do it because now it's considered as cringe. They've moved on to something else. I'm hoping that's the case, yeah. But unfortunately, given South Africa's situation, we are incredibly bad at measuring and putting mechanisms to understand the scope of the situation, we are unfortunately going to live with this narrative. But we also see a very similar statistic that's happening in New Zealand, where when New Zealand did a reversal on their vape law in 2020, we suddenly saw this uptake of vaping amongst the youth, and immediately everybody jumped up screaming and shouting, said, "We told you so, we told you so, we told you so."
Yeah.
But now the latest statistics are coming back showing that there's now a decline again. Again, there's that fad about kids. Kids are incredibly fickle when it comes to these things.
Yeah, and that's peer pressure. And
then you get school of thoughts that say, but if they weren't vaping, what else would they be doing?
Correct.
Kind of thing. Would they be smoking? Which obviously is a really difficult conversation to have. So our bill that we've now got working through, and unfortunately this is the next part of the interview, is get some views and thoughts around. When you look at this particular legislation that's sitting before Parliament, what is the things that concern you most about this bill?
Good. First and foremost, tobacco and vaping should never be in the same sentence, in my opinion. Never. It cannot be coupled together with a harmful combustible product. Vaping is pure harm reduction. It's as you said earlier, it's the most effective way of getting someone to transition over from smoking combustible cigarettes over to a far healthier alternative. In terms of this draconian way that the government is doing things, and like you say, and as your previous guest mentioned, is that it seems to me that there's no wanting to go and actually get the right information and do the research behind it. It has to take smaller groups such as ourselves to go and implement that and try and inform the public via social media and that type of thing. Where for me it's always been, how can a government who has a high statistic rate of smoking deaths per year not want to be involved in saving lives? Why do they want to implement something that's firstly going to damage our economy? It's going to put a lot of people out of business. Why are they doing this? It makes no sense to me in its entirety.
Because vaping is dangerous, and it can cause death. Because it took 50, 60 years to establish the risk around smoking.
Yeah,
but I agree with you 100%, but I'm just using their argument points, is that we won't know for the next 50 to 60 years, which in my view is complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they forgot that science builds on science, and that we no longer require these extended period of times to understand the impact of health. In fact, I think one of my heroes had indicated, I think it's Clive Bates, that indicated if we had to push through a cigarette through some kind of testing, or the most modern testing that we rely on at the moment, we would know within 15 minutes that the product is harmful and deadly. Correct. And therefore should not be sold.
We saw proof of that with what was that? I can't remember exactly what the machine was called, but it was that plastic dome machine. And they,
The bell jar.
yeah, correct.
Yeah, the
And then
bell jar.
you saw the color of the
And that was
carton on the inside.
that was done by, I think it was the University of City of London.
That's right.
Where they tried to demonstrate the difference between vaping and so maybe we can take that clip and insert it here just to give people that idea. I think it's a good idea. So when you look at this bill, what are the clauses that are actually going to impact you as an individual, but also as a person that's involved in the industry? What do you think are the most problematic clauses in this bill?
Sure. Where to begin? Definitely not being able to advertise products. I think is ridiculous. I mean, people generally buy on what they can see, what's tangible. They can hold it, they can look at it, they can feel it, they can taste it, whatever the case is. By not having those products visible, how do people know what they want to buy? How do they know what it tastes like? How do they know what it feels like?
But the people on the opposite side of the aisle will say, but that's exactly the point. We don't want people to touch. We don't want people to see it. We don't want to. So, I mean, there's immediately there's some kind of friction around that because, yes, you do want people to see and touch and feel and know that the product exists. Yeah. And then the opposite side of the aisle would say, no, we don't want people to know that the product exists.
No, it's stupid thinking, Kurt. Honestly, it's really dumb thinking. Not only that, look, let me say that I definitely agree that we need to have regulation and stringent measures in place to ensure that the products are available and they're available safely for people to consume. But by just banning it completely or not even having allowed to have your products on shelf. I mean, stupid things such as you can't vape or smoke on your property if you have someone that vapes and smokes or doesn't vape and smoke on your property. Not vaping and smoking in public. No online sales, no social media. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. And why is it happening to these products where there is such an influx of illegal cigarettes and illicit trade coming into the country? Why is the focus not on that? And we know there's a hidden agenda, but it just makes no sense to me at all. It's definitely gonna affect my business, whereby some of my customers may be forced to close down because of that. I mean, I have customers that are specifically online customers. What are they going to do? And yes, they haven't been in the industry as long as say the some of the more the more established vape shops, but those people also, they've got a family to feed, they've got food to put on their table. Yes, they've got an online business, but they won't be able to sell those products anymore.
Why is an online business so important, though, in this space?
I think definitely since COVID, what I've noticed as an example is that people are looking for more convenience these sort of days. People want to prefer to stay at home and order something online and get it delivered. And I think technology has contributed to that greatly. You've got literally, you can order your groceries online and get them delivered to your house. So it's a matter of convenience and people, I mean, the roads are busy, there's lots of things happening. People would prefer to sit at home and get something delivered to their house. It's as simple as that. And to stop, if you want to improve your well-being and you want to improve your health, why should you not be allowed to have access to those products? Yeah, are they saying, okay, well, let's rather let people die of, what the smoking rates are, the deaths in this country per year? I mean, what is it? It's in the thousands. High.
So it's actually, once again,
what are they saying?
I was looking at some. I was looking at some of the statistics, and I was actually quite alarmed. Is that and it comes from the same. I'd hate to say the same source, but it's the same commentators. One would say that in 2016, the estimated number was 25,000. And then you would look a little bit further on, and then you'll see somebody from the Western Cape within the same sphere would say it's up to 40,000. So we don't even have a real grasp on what the mortality, let alone the morbidity of smoking-related diseases are in this country, which is shocking in the first thing.
Absolutely.
It's rather quite alarming. But if we look at, for example, online sales, they then would say, the people on the opposite aisle will say, but then it makes it easier for kids to be able to source the products online. It just makes it difficult. And again, it all boils back to what do we have to do in order to, again, make these products less available to the youth? And one of the things that they were indicating is that online sales is an issue. And you can buy these products off Uber Eats or if Take-A-Lot, or you can get it off WhatsApps and so forth. And my issue around that is that, sure, you can make it illegal, but who's going to police it?
Correct.
Who's going to enforce it?
Yeah.
You know, and we've seen these kind of models, or we've seen these kind of regulations being tested in far more sophisticated environments like Australia, where 98% of the products that are being bought
Through pharmacies.
No, but yeah, 98% of the products that have been bought are actually bought off the black market, because the only products you can buy are from a pharmacy, and 1 in 10 pharmacies in Australia are prepared to sell a product. What I don't think they understand is that if we look at the number of kids that are vaping, and who these kids are, they typically come from higher income groups. Okay, so they're going to have access to this. We're also talking about this phenomenon. Parents just say, well, at least they're not smoking, so I will buy them a vape.
Yeah.
So you banning an internet or banning a supply channel that could very well be an access point to the youth, whether it be direct from the youth or through their guardian. You're preventing that. But the most important thing, the reason why the internet and internet sales are so important in my eyes, is not just a convenience thing, is that because of all the innovation and because there's such a wide variety of these products, not one single store in the world, and I mean this, in the world, will be able to stock every single product.
Absolutely.
And variant.
Good point.
And
Good point.
strength and flavor.
Yeah.
So it gives the person who wants to vape, and hopefully they are a person that is a former smoker or wanting to quit smoking, the opportunity to enter the world's biggest supermarket and find a product that suits them. And they might not be somewhere that's situated in a country or in a city like we are currently. They might be out in the sticks somewhere where they don't have access to these products. I mean, I was listening to somebody talking about in Australia, in the outback of Australia, where there's literally, there's always a liquor store or bar, and there's no real pharmacy. There is no, so that in order for them to get any kind of medication, they have to fly the thing in or drive the product in. How does that individual have access to a safer product?
Good point.
Without the internet, without being able to deliver it?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of the policy around that, it kind of ignores that we're not all living in the city centre of Cape Town or in Danefern, guys.
Absolutely. I can't agree more about what you just said, Kurt.
A large part of our population are outside of these major centres, and therefore, even if we think about small towns in the Free State or in the Northwest or in Limpopo, they might be just towns, but they will never have the ability to have access to all the different things. So why can't we use technologies like the internet, like courier services, to make sure that people have access to the same products that we have in everywhere else? And that's the power of the internet.
Yeah.
And if you're really worried about the kids having access, then there are measures you can put in place.
There's plenty of measures you can put in place.
You know, if you can get your driver's license or you can get your credit card delivered to you via post or via courier, what checks and balances do they put in place there?
Correct.
I mean, I just recently got my visa for the UK, and I had an option to have my passport couriered back to me. Obviously, when the courier arrives, I have to prove that who I am.
Yeah.
The same kind of principle can be placed in there.
Absolutely.
So, if we look at where do you think this is all going to? You know, given what is the general sentiment of the vape shops or the people that you speak to out there with regards to vaping? What's their feeling around this?
Look, Kurt, it's an unknown at this moment in time, in a nutshell. I think everybody's a little bit on edge in terms of, are we going to be here for the long haul? what is the government going to do to us? I mean, as an example, they passed the tax last year, the excise tax in June of last year. I mean, that already crumpled a lot of suppliers and vendors, whereby disposables did become prevalent in the industry. I mean, you're looking at a product that was selling at a certain price now being 4 times that value. For us, as a good example of that, I mean, we were a predominant e-liquid manufacturer, and we had a bunch of flavors, and we literally had a decision to make. Are we going to keep our business alive, or are we going to go to where the market is heading? But the general consensus out there is that, nobody seems to know what the government is going to do at any given time. I also believe, I think the vape shops in general want to be the specialists in the industry, and I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But, there's another market out there in terms of the retail sector as well. And I think a lot of them do argue that point that, say, a disposable product can be available in a garage or a pick and pay. Why should they be the only ones allowed to sell that product? For me, it's all about harm reduction. If you're selling a cigarette in a garage or a pick and pay, why should there not be a vape product next to it? You're introducing harm reduction. So we need to all come together and be on that. Let's be harm reduction. Where the vape shops can be the specialists is with the long fill liquids, with the cotton, with the batteries, with the mods, with the devices. That is generally the consensus that I pick up in the stores at the moment. But I think everybody's on edge and nobody sort of knows which way we're going to go. And I think it's very important that we all come together as a community. And you've always said it, strength comes in numbers. The individualistic way of thinking now, I do things the way I want to do things, and someone else will sort out the problem. Those days need to come to an end. Everybody needs to come together, and we really need to be a community again. I think the community aspect of vaping has sort of diminished over the years. Stop all the drama. Let's focus on the task at hand, and let's focus on getting people off smoking. That for me is the most important thing.
You touched on a very, very important point there, and I'd actually forgotten about it. Bavok was started as an e-liquid company.
Correct.
And produced some of the most beautiful flavors out there.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, because of the excise, a very tough decision had to be made.
Correct.
And you no longer make e-liquids anymore.
So
the e-liquids you do make, let me correct that, e-liquids you do make are now only available in disposables.
Correct. Yeah.
So
we really don't like to. I mean, the predominant seller in our range, we don't really like to call it a disposable. We actually, in my eyes, it's actually a closed pod system. However, at that particular time, and just going back to what you said now, is that when we were forced to make that decision, nothing had been agreed to with SARS in terms of the excise tax and how we could get around it at that time. So it was really a tough decision for us. The owner of the company, Mr. Wayne Peterson, he was so passionate about mixing liquids. He was phenomenal in what he did. Really, I mean, I've been vaping a long time. I've tasted all the juices under the sun. He was phenomenal. For him to actually walk into that laboratory and say, right, that's it, we're closing it down. I think both of us cried tears. It was terrible. But yet, we can adapt. At the moment, we are busy introducing long fills. We have seen a shift in the market. So we can do that. We can adapt.
One of your flavors was my daily.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart when I heard that the manufacturing facility on e-liq was closed down. So as a final point, thank you very much for coming on and having a chat.
Thank you.
I know we chat quite often during the course of the week. What would you, if you were given an opportunity to talk to a member of the Portfolio Committee of Health or even to the Health Minister, what would you like to share with them as to why they should be considering this differently, looking at this particular topic differently?
Sure. I'd probably be arrested, firstly, if I had to go and have a chat to them. But I would like them to take us seriously as an industry and listen to the science behind the products and let us work together in terms of coming up with a way that can regulate these products in such a way that it's beneficial to everybody. If it's a case of money, there's money to be made, both sides. Just sit and listen to what the industry has to say. We are the experts. We know what we're talking about. Some of us have been involved in this industry a long, long time. It's difficult in terms of getting our points across them, and we've tried numerous times. I mean, you know for yourself. I mean, you must be frustrated as all hell. I think we all are at this point in time. But just to have a meeting, just to sit down and say, right, guys, please listen to what we have to say. We're the experts. Help us to come up with a solution that benefits everybody at the end of the day. And listen to the science behind it, and let's save people's lives. It's as simple as that. I mean, I could probably get more technical. I'm not a big follower of all these things. I mean, I generally rely on you for that information. I do follow it a lot. But, it's just a simple matter of, listen.
So in other words, invite us to the table.
Invite us to the table and hear what we have to say. Yeah. And we've been involved in these meetings, and it's ridiculous. They maybe I shouldn't say something here, but, I've seen that it's very simple for them to say we ticked a box. They don't follow process and protocol, but they've ticked the box in terms of having meetings with us and trying to listen to us, but they don't allow us to say what we need to say.
They hear us, but they're not listening.
They hear us, but they're not listening. Correct. There needs to be that gap needs to be bridged somehow.
A consultation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, rather than just a presentation, an actual consultation.
A proper consultation with various stakeholders in the industry, people who have been doing this for a long time, that know what they're talking about. People like you that are already fighting, that have the knowledge and deal with advocates all around the world, where you've literally got the science to back up what you say. They need to listen to that. Yeah. That's what really I would say.
Thank you very much, Gregg, and
pleasure.
thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for all you do as well, Kurt. It goes without saying. I mean, I certainly wouldn't know what I know in this industry if it wasn't for you, and you helped me on my journey as well. So I'm always indebted to you for that. But yeah, I don't think people realize what you have to go through behind the scenes and how much hair you've pulled out. So yeah, thank you.
Pulled out and gone great.
Correct. All of us.
Well, thank you very much, Gregg.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another episode of the PackBreakers. If you enjoyed our content and learned something, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. You can follow PackBreakers on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. You can also follow us on all our socials on Facebook and Instagram, VSML_SA. But all our information is saved neatly and concisely on our website, vsml.co.za. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Kurt Yoya from VSML. I have some exciting news to share about our podcast, The PackBreakers. We're shooting at an incredible location, The Shed in Silo. Check them out at www.theshedinSilo.co.za. Get ready for a visual treat. We'll be showcasing the stunning venue and state-of-the-art facilities offered by The Shed in Silo. From their spacious event spaces to the cozy cottages, this place has it all. Imagine a panoramic view, indulging in the farm-to-table cuisine at this restaurant. Fantastic cuisine. And relaxing with the refreshing drinks. Fantastic coffee. The Shed in Silo offers a truly unforgettable experience for anyone who appreciates nature, comfort, and style. So, mark your calendars and join us on the PackBreakers as we take you on a virtual tour of the Shed in Silo. Trust me, this place will leave you speechless. Stay tuned for more updates on our up-and-coming episodes at this extraordinary venue.